Hello there guys, it's me Unstable Voltage and welcome to a brand new Let's Play of Civilization 5 with the Brave New World expansion. It's been a little while since I have done some Civ 5 and I thought it was time for another game. Now if you remember last time we played as the Celts and we achieved a scientific victory. This time around I'd like to try and go for one of the other victory types. I think the scientific victory is probably considered one of the easiest victory types because there isn't really a good defense against it. So what I've done in this game, everything is pretty much set to standard. I'm playing on the Prince difficulty level, which is considered the sort of middle average difficulty with no benefits or handicaps to the player. It is a random map type, so I don't know whether it's going to be a Pangaea or continents or archipelagos. I have no clue at the moment. Also randomed the Civ and got Germany. Now what I decided I was going to do in this video, because I wanted a different victory condition, I thought about maybe going for the cultural victory, because the cultural victory is one of the more difficult ones. It's also one of the more interesting ones that I find. So let's just have a very quick look at Germany, what their special abilities are. So if we just go and have a look, you can see we have a unique unit and a unique building. Our unique unit is the Panzer. So we have a tank which replaces the standard tank. Now that obviously is a late game unit. So it's a late game unit like all of the extra units that is designed for combat. We also have a unique building, the Hans, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is a replacement for the bank. So it actually replaces the standard bank and it gives us an extra 5% production for each trade route the civilization has with the city-state. And trade routes to other players gain an extra gold in each direction. So that's the unique unit and the unique building for Germany. Now, if we go and have a look at Bismarck, you can see that upon defeating a barbarian unit inside an encampment, there's a 67% chance you earn 25 gold, which we do normally anyway, and they join your side and pay 25% less for land unit maintenance. So the Fury Teutonics actually gives us two things here. One, it gives us a chance that barbarians are going to join us when we take the camps down, and secondly, we pay less money for unit maintenance. So the German civilization in this game is probably best geared for a domination victory, but I've always held this game in a way that says any civilization can win any victory type. Yes, some of them certainly have abilities and civilization unique abilities that prefer a particular victory type, but we're going to try and get a culture win if we can. So without waffling on for too much longer, I'm going to put my city down right here. Seems like a great spot. We've got a source of wheat, so we've got a good source of food. We've also got deer. We have two luxury resources. We're on a river and we're on a coast, so seems like as good a spot as any. So we're going to pop that down right there. First thing we're going to produce is a scout. Should always be the first thing you produce. It's only 5 turns and it means we can start uncovering some of the landscape. Now, one of the things that I am going to do on this particular playthrough is I am going to be doing a little bit more micromanaging. On the last one, I tended to leave my workers and cities and everything on manual. On automated. This time I'm going to be going more manual. Now, one of the things that I did touch on the last Let's Play, if you click on your city, now you can see every city has a number, which is the population size. It has a population size of 1 currently in Berlin. Now, as you can see, on the right hand side here, if we click city management, we will actually see all of the tiles within our borders and which resources we get from each tile. Now, you always have the palace in the city is always worked. Every city has every capital city has a palace. So the capital city provides us with 2 food and 1 construction, which we always get. Now you can see what we've got here. This little green head figure in this circle says that our one citizen, it says there, 1 citizen, is working this tile. Now this tile gives us 2 food, 1 production and 1 gold. It's probably the best tile it can work because it's on default focus and you do want the food for growth. We could work this tile, which would give us 1 food but 2 gold as well as the 1 production. Or we could work the wheat, which would give us 2 food, and 1 production, but no gold. So this is the best tile to work. The AI has got it right on this occasion. Sometimes you might want to click it and turn it into a little padlock icon, which will mean, regardless of the automation, the AI will never move the citizen from this tile. And you can actually manually move the citizen around. But what we want to do is work this tile. It definitely seems like the best one. It gives us the best food we're going to get, because all of the tiles either give us only 1 or 2 food, and it gives us 1 production and 1 gold. Gold is of the least importance early on in the game. So you can citizens can only work tiles within your borders, and you can only work tiles that are within 3 hexes of a city. Sometimes you might see other icons here. Sometimes there's a little icon with 2 arrows pointing in opposite directions, which means that a tile is close enough so that 2 different cities could work it. Clicking that icon switches it between each of the cities, so you can swap which city works that tile. And if it's occupied by an enemy unit, you'll have a little red background with 2 crossed swords, which basically means the tile is blockaded and you get nothing from it. So we'll touch more onto that as we go into it. First thing I'm going to do is just move my warrior around manually, try and discover some early ruins, and we're going to look at our research. Now, I did say that I'd like to go for a cultural victory, which is still true, but the thing is, you never know what sort of land you're going to be on, who you're going to be up against, so we may have to change that at the last minute. So one of the best things for me to get probably is pottery first, because that means each source of wheat and bananas and deer produces an extra food, because we can build the granary, and we do have a source of wheat next to the city, so that's definitely the best thing to do. I've also got the single player score list turned on up here in the upper right hand corner, so you have a rough idea of what's going on score wise, although it's not going to make a huge deal of difference to who wins. It never does. But it's going to be a uneventful couple of early turns, just while we are moving our warriors around and trying to have a look and see what's about. So it looks like we are at the top of this piece of land here. It may extend out beyond that wheat. It does a little bit. Not sure how far it goes. Looks like we've discovered a bit of tundra there. For the time being, I'm going to keep my warrior up here because my scout can go south. So, okay, we found the edge of the territory. Let's bring that warrior back down over the next few turns. Now we can choose production, which obviously means our scout is now ready. So the next thing we're going to go for is a monument, because the palace within the city doesn't produce any culture. And you need culture for 3 things in this game. It's very important whatever type of victory you are doing. You need culture to expand your borders. You can pay gold to expand your borders, but your normal border expansion is determined by your culture. So as you can see, let's just get out of the construction. If we click here, you can see this purple outline around the hex, which means that that is going to be the next tile we acquire automatically, and 10 turns until border growth. So we have 1 culture, so in 10 turns we will get border growth. And if we had more culture, that would happen more quickly. You also need culture to buy your social policies. And you also need culture as a defense for other people trying to get a cultural victory. Again, that's something that I'll cover when we get closer to achieving that, if we do. So it should always be a scout, then a monument. It's always the most important thing to build. We now have our scout. I could just set him straight on to automated, but what I'm going to do for the time being is just manually move him south. We do have a lot of salt and wheat around. Now, I'm still not 100% sure what type of map we are on. It's starting to look like it could be archipelagos, which is not the most useful map type, I'll be quite honest. Especially if you're trying to get a cultural victory, but we're still going to have a good scout around. We've got a couple of mountains around, which means we could put a second city next to those for an observatory. We could get some additional science going that way. Right, we have discovered Mount Kilimanjaro. Now that gives us an extra 3 food and 2 culture if we were working it, which obviously we're not currently able to. And we'd also get free promotion for adjacent units, which is altitude training. And we do get a boost of happiness in the Empire for finding that. So we're going to continue to have a look around. There's a city-state down there, so I'll move down and be the first to discover them. So we do have a local city-state. I'm going to use my warriors to sort of come down here on this side as well. Berlin has now grown, so if we have a look, we can see we now have 2 citizens. And the AI has decided to put the second citizen in this hex here, which is fair enough. It gives us 2 food and 1 construction. The only one it could have put it in was the wheat, which would give it the same bonus. But we'll probably be upgrading the wheat first. When that happens, we should see that move. We'll need a worker for that, but we don't have a worker just yet. That will come a little later. No need to rush workers, though, so not too worried about that for the time being. So, got a lot of forests here and a river to cross, which does slow our movement down because you use double movement to move into a forest. And you also use up all of your movement by crossing a river. But we have discovered or Ur, and I believe it's Ur. So we're the first person to meet them. And give us some gold for free. Now I'm already slipping down the bottom of the scoreboards, as you can see here. Now the main reason for this is... Oh, we met Singapore as well. Brilliant. And they've only provided us with 15 gold, which means we're not the first person to meet them. So there must be another civilization, probably down here on the map somewhere. And I forgot what I was going to say, because there was definitely something I was going to talk about before, and I can't remember what it was. So we shall carry on. Oh yeah, the scoreboard. The reason why I'm dropping down the scoreboard at the moment is because even though I'm playing on Prince, the AI always play on the 2nd difficulty level. So while I don't have any handicaps or bonuses, the AI are all getting bonuses. So they do tend to jump ahead a little bit in the early game. We've finished pottery. The next thing for us to go for, we have a choice. What could we do? Well, we need mining to get the salt. We need calendar to get the dyes. Or we need trapping to get the deer. I think we should go for animal husbandry. Get the trap. Animal husbandry does lead into trapping, I believe. Yeah, animal husbandry into trapping. And then we'll be able to get the bonus from that food there. I'm going to keep moving my scouts in this direction. We've pretty much found the bottom of the island there. Obviously, scouts don't suffer any movement penalty. They can move through rough terrain, so hills, forests, jungles, and it doesn't actually cost them double movement. Right, I think it's time to start bringing these guys back. So we should find another civilization quite soon. Again, I'm still dropping down the scoreboard, but there's somebody down there at a similar level. So we've now produced our monument. So what we could go for now is a shrine or a granary or a worker. I'm going to go for a shrine. It'll start to get us some faith on the board. Now, I don't usually play the religious game, and on a map type where all the civilizations are spread out on different islands, it actually makes it very difficult to do the religious game, because it just makes it more difficult to move units around in general. Okay, well, we found a barbarian camp. They're on the other side of the river, so we're going to need to cross over to deal with those, because you do get an attack penalty for fighting over a river. So we're going to cross the river. We are going to keep moving our scouts around in the hope of finding the other civilization. They still have a extra movement. There we go. End that turn there. Okay, so they decided they were going to come out and attack our scouts. Not very wise for them, because I'm instantly going to destroy their camp. Now, I believe... I won't say it was a mistake, because I'd thought about it before I did it anyway. But I believe there's only a chance of getting barbarians to fight for you if you kill the barbarians that are in the camp. Which we didn't do, of course. We actually just took the camp. But that's not a problem. I'd sooner get the camp taken out and get a bit of a boost of gold early on. As you can see, they're already starting to retreat a bit. So I'm going to attack them for a minor victory. Let's get these barbarians wiped out. Let's let our scout heal up a little as well. One other thing you may have noticed on this Let's Play, which is different to my last one, no in-game music. Unfortunately, the reason for that is because of the YouTube changes, and I'd probably be getting copyright hits all over the place if I had the music on, so very sorry about that. So, what are we going to go for? Well, personally, I always like to go for tradition because it helps me in being able to grow my city. I also get an extra 3 culture in the capital, which is a great way to start off with an early culture boost. So I'm going to go for tradition to start with and see where we go from there. Okay, now these guys have crossed a river, but I'm still going to fight them because I still get a minor victory. There's even a possibility that I could take them out. Well, it was unlikely, but it was possible. They may be able to get away from me on the next turn because... Oh no, they've crossed back over onto this side of the river. Well, that was a little bit stupid for them. I'm not going to take the insta-heal. I'm going to go for the shock promotion. Now remember again, with military units, the promotion, fighting in rough terrain or fighting in open terrain, affects the terrain that the target is standing in, not the terrain that you're on. So for example, these guys are on a hill, which is rough terrain. The barbarian is on a plains, which is open terrain. So what I want to go for is shock, because that will give me the bonus in open terrain. And as you can see, if you look in the victory window that appears just here, I get the open terrain attack bonus. So it's always about the hex you're attacking into, because this is where the fighting takes place. The fighting is happening in the open terrain. If I'd have lost that fight, I'd have withdrew. So open terrain is where we want to be. So these guys can all heal up now. Scouts are done, and again, they don't take the penalty for crossing the river. Looks like we found the borders of somebody else here. Animal husbandry is now complete, so we're going to go and choose our research. I think we're going to take mining, though, because that will also allow us to get the salt. So let us move these guys. Ah, so we've met the Iroquois. Not an awful lot we can do at the moment, because we don't really have any ability to do anything. Let's heal these guys up. Now, we can't get through the Iroquois territory, unfortunately. They've got a nice little hold on here because they've got this area pretty blocked off. Now, I think what I'd like to do is get a settler and pop my second city. Probably... 1, 2, 3. Probably pop my second city on one of these tiles. I'd like it to be next to the mountain, because that would give me the ability to put an observatory there. I'd also like it to be on the coast, ideally, because it's just easier with ships. Putting it here isn't a great idea, because I do kind of lose some of my territory expansion potential to Singapore. But I would be able to get the bananas and the gems and the fish. I would also be able to get the salt. Wouldn't be close enough to get that wheat, but we could always get that with a second city up here. So, yeah, I just want to block their expansion. I don't want them to be able to come any further north. The other option, of course, is to not worry about putting it on the coast and just put it there on the hill. Because that would then allow it to reach the wheat. But again, it wouldn't be on a river. That hex would be a river hex. I think that is the best hex for it. So that may well be what I end up doing. So we're going to choose production. Now a settler is actually going to take quite a bit of time. It takes 13 turns to produce a settler. And while you're producing a settler, you don't actually get any growth in the capital. So we're going to go for a granary. And I can't do an awful lot with the scout, so I am actually going to automate him for the time being. Now, another thing with settlers is they are a little bit unique, because not only are they the only unit that stop the city from growing while they're being produced, every other unit that you can produce in the city actually requires a cost of production. So as you can see, a worker costs 70 production, caravan 75, a scout 25, a warrior 40, and our city's outputting 7 production per turn, so that's how it works out how many turns it will take. So at 7 production a turn, it'll take 11 turns to get the 75 production needed to make the caravan. Now as you can see, the settler doesn't actually have any production value, because the settler's production is based on the amount of excess food you're putting out. So Berlin has now grown to a size of 3. And as you can see, it has now decided to work this extra salt tile. It would have been the wheat, but we get an extra gold by working this tile. So that's absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with the AI's choice to work that tile at all. Now, we are beating the Iroquois slightly. I'm not sure how. We can adopt another policy. Now, we could go for 15% extra production when building wonders, and 1 happiness for every 10 citizens in the city. Well, it's going to be a little while before we get those 10 citizens. We could go for legalism, which provides us with a free culture building in our first 4 cities. It would be very useful when we found our second city, which also leads us on to landed elite, which gives us 10% growth rate and an extra 2 food in the capital. Or I could start to move into liberty, which will give us an extra culture in every city and unlock the pyramids. But I don't think I want to go for that just yet. Probably want to start building wonders as early as possible in an attempt to try and beat the AI on some of them. So I'm going to go for aristocracy. And we're going to move on to our next turn. So as you can see, another social policies just moved me up a little bit in the ladder there. I think he's going to explore out. He's probably going to go up in that corner, cut through Or's territory and upset them greatly. And then we're back to the usual deal with civilization of just clicking the next turn button and waiting for something exciting to happen. No, you're going to trespass in Singapore and upset them. Okay, that's fine. It'll recover in time. It's not the biggest issue in the world. And just leave those guys to continue exploring. Okay, so they want to give us 1 gold per turn for an embassy. Now, I'm going to refuse that because 1 gold per turn isn't a lot of gold. I mean, admittedly, it's an extra 50% on top of what I'm earning, but I'd much prefer to get mutual embassies with them. They are doing quite well as far as food goes, actually. We've now discovered mining. We've discovered another barbarian camp. So it might be actually worth trying to get my warriors down into that area, but it would take them an awful long time to get there, so I probably won't bother doing that. I am going to go for archery. It's worth getting that nice and early just so that you can get archers, because if we do happen to get attacked, we are going to need them. Going to keep these guys just here on the lookout, actually. The last game of this I played, I actually started right next to Japan, who instantly, within a couple of turns, decided to start picking on and attacking my local city-states. So sometimes you do need to be in a defensive position. As you can see here, we've found the capital of the Iroquois, and they seem to be being hassled by barbarians. Which is, you know, good for me in a sense, because they're already pillaging their tiles, and it does slow their progress down a little bit. We also saw there that they already have a worker, so that is nice to know. Now, I could cock-block them quite significantly by putting a city here. It would certainly stifle their growth in this direction, and they'd be limited to this little area of the island here. Now, it's a little bit of a mean thing to do, but I think it's what I'm going to go for, to be honest. Try and do it before they can get a settler up. Now, I can found a pantheon, so having that early shrine was a great idea. Now, what would we like to get? The God King's nice because it gives us an additional 1 of everything, but it's only a one-time thing, and by the end of the game, that is pretty poor. I usually like to take fertility rights because a 10% growth, 10% faster growth rate overall is pretty decent. We could also go for ancestor worship, where we get an extra 1 culture from shrines. But a lot of that depends on how many cities we're going to have. And you never really know how many cities you're going to be able to get. Religious idols is always nice, but we don't have any gold or silver around. Now, we could go for sacred path. Culture from jungle tiles. We do certainly have a few jungle tiles around, but because we're not on particularly fertile land, at least some of those are going to be converted into farms. So I think we are going to go for fertility rights. It's always a good one to start with. And we have a new production. Now, what I am going to go for is I am going to go for the settler this time around. It will stifle our growth early on, but we need to get a second city up and running as soon as possible, I think. We don't have an awful lot of room to expand to the north. There isn't really much up there, although we could get another city up here just for the horses, the wheat and the salt. There isn't really an awful lot we can expand out to the west either. So Not a particularly good starting location in terms of resources. Although, I'll be honest, I've started on worse. So, a unit needs orders. We've got our scouts who can no longer get past these barbarians here. So I think I'm going to put them in the jungle. Now, if I wanted to try and get... We've got no embarkation with my warriors. If I wanted to get my warriors here, it's going to take them 14 turns of trekking through the land, which is a little bit of a pain. So I think I'm going to leave them there. I actually shouldn't have moved my scout. I'm going to put my scout back there. They're not automated anymore. We'll see if the barbarians attack them. Now, funnily enough... Okay, we've got archery. Okay, that's not good because they've just produced more barbarians, so I'm going to run away. What I was going to say is that, and as you can see, we only move one tile there because we're adjacent to an enemy. So this is one of the mechanics, is if you're adjacent to an enemy unit, you can only move one tile. Now, if it was just my scouts against the barbarian encampment, you can actually tank them defensively by just going into guarded mode. And the defense bonus, especially when you're on a hill, is usually enough to stop them from being able to kill you. So we're going to go for our next social policy. I'm going to go for the free culture building in the first 4 cities. Doesn't help us out immediately, but it leads to landed elite, and we will be having a second city shortly. I think what I should probably do is go through to sailing, because we're on a small island. We need to get embarkation as early as possible so we can actually get out there and start to find new lands to colonise. I'm going to put my scouts on alert mode, so they'll get 25% defensive bonus on this turn, and they will get a 50% defensive bonus every turn thereafter. So if they get attacked, they should be able to tank a lot of the damage and heal up. Although I've got a feeling that these guys are either going to... These guys are either going to attack Singapore. I thought they might have gone over to the Iroquois, but they didn't. Actually, I had it on the wrong thing. I should have had it on Fortify, not Alert. So I'm just going to leave them on Fortify, at least until those guys move away. And third on the scoreboard. See, they're just running around like idiots now. But because I've now put them on Fortify instead of Alert, they haven't popped back out of their defensive mode, which is brilliant. I really would like to be able to get units down there and help deal with these barbarians. I mean, that is one of the major things that we can get with our sort of Civ unique. The problem is it's just pretty impractical to get any units down there at the moment. So, yeah, we would... Well, we'd get a bonus for attacking into a hill, and we'd get a bonus, a 40% bonus for attacking barbarians. I think I might attack them just to get them started off and see what happens, then go back into Fortify mode. They could wipe my scout out here, but at this moment in time, there's not an awful lot my scout can do. They're pretty much trapped on the island. So, we took a bit of damage to the scouts there, but I'm going to instantly heal them, give them that promotion, and then I'm going to get them to... Fortify, so they will automatically heal up there. So they should now be able to tank those guys if they decide to keep attacking. We're going to go on to the next turn. The barbarians didn't attack that time around, so let's attack them again. At least start to thin them out if we can. They're doing very poorly now. I mean, they do have better fighting power than us, but like I said, we should be able to tank them out. Okay, now that is not good. Let's go heal until fortified. I might just have to withdraw that scout if possible. At least I have my settler now. So I am going to... Do I have the wrong thing selected? Yeah, I've got these guys selected, which I don't want. Choose production. What are we going to have now? Now, a worker probably is what we need, but there again, a Temple of Artemis would also be very useful. It would give us an extra culture per turn. We do have the bonus to building wonders, so let's get that going as quick as possible. And we want to... Now, the AI is suggesting that we put our city on one of these tiles. Now, this tile actually isn't a bad idea. I have to be honest, because it's next to a river. It's next to a mountain. We could put it here to be on the coast, but then we wouldn't be able to reach this salt. So putting it here allows us to reach the salt. We're next to a mountain. We can reach the bananas. We can reach the gems. We can reach the fish. We wouldn't get some of these tiles, but it's still enough to block them from moving north. So I think we are actually going to go and head for that tile there. It seems like the best choice right now. Bottom of the scoreboard again. Not to worry. Yeah, I thought that was going to happen. They're now trying to attack me with all of their units. There's just too many there for me to deal with now. So hanging around for that is complete stupidity. I need to get away from them. So I don't know why I've got 3 movement for some reason. Is there some sort of bonus that I'm missing here? 1, 2. See, I'm out of movement, but for some reason I can still move into an extra tile. And I have no idea why that is. So that is very strange. So let's move on to the next turn. Certainly don't recall seeing anything like that. Let's just very quickly check the Civlopedia again. Pay less for unit maintenance. There doesn't seem to be anything as a civilization unique that allows us to move more quickly. So I must have missed something there. Not too sure why that's happening. I am going to move these guys through Singapore and out the other side. Yes, Singapore will get a little bit upset again that I've done this. But not to worry. Yeah, Singapore are unhappy because I am trespassing. We've researched sailing and we can get out of the other side of Singapore now. So, let's have a look at the technology tree. What are we going to go for here? Now, we need optics to allow us to embark on water. But I think for the time being, we need trapping because we want to be able to start upgrading some tiles as soon as we can build a worker. Berlin has grown yet again. It is now decided to move people to this wheat field because we're now getting 3 food from the wheat field, and that is because we have the which one was it? There's something we just got that allowed us to get more food, and I can't remember which one it was. Can never remember which ones these are. We are building the Temple of Artemis, but either way, we're now getting more food from the wheat fields, so they're now working the wheat fields. Yeah, that salt field's still fine. We're working that wheat field, we're working that wheat field. Yep, don't think we could be doing that any better, so I'm going to leave that as it is. Quite happy to do that. Still going to be 17 turns before we complete the Temple of Artemis. Somebody may well beat us to it, it's quite possible. I'm going to get these guys to heal up now. I don't think the barbarians down there are actually a threat to me at the moment, so I'm quite happy to let them get on with things. So, I've noticed this game is still a little buggy. There are a few little sort of exploits, even though they've tried to patch it out. I'm not sure it's going to work, but as you can see at the moment, we don't know who the other players are. Even if we go into our victory progress and have a look at the scoreboard, all we see is unknown, so we don't know who the other players are. But there is a way sometimes, we probably haven't got the technology to do this, but when you get to a point where you can say to the you can trade with another civilization and you can say declare war on or make peace with. If I go to declare war on, I can now instantly see who all of the other civilizations are. So we've got Carthage, we've got the Incans, we've got Rome, Japan, we've got the Songhai, we've got China. So that's something they really need to kind of patch out. Obviously I can't click on any of these, they're all greyed out because I haven't met them yet. As the same with the city-states, you can actually see which city-states exist on the map. So it's a little bit of a strange thing that exists, and I only found that in my last game. So that is a little strange. Also, what I found in my last game, which I also considered very strange, is I had one of the AI share intrigue with me that one of the other civilization leaders was conspiring against me, and I hadn't even met them. So I was being conspired against by somebody who I hadn't even met. So, okay, we've got our second city. We have Hamburg. We don't need to build a monument because we have the social policy of legalism, which gives us a free culture building in our first 4 cities. So if I click on Hamburg, you can see we already have a free monument. We don't need to build one of those. So we do need to decide what we are going to build here. Now, what I probably should go for is a granary. Let's get food up and running as quick as possible. We are struggling a little bit with happiness here, which is not a good start. He still wants to give us gold per turn for embassy. I'm still going to refuse that at the moment. I am breaking even on gold. I mean, I can always make the same deal offer to him in the future if needs be. Okay, he's getting a little bit upset because I've expanded near him. It was to be expected. I'm going to apologise, and that shouldn't cause any further problems. I should get the border growth onto these 2 tiles before he gets anywhere up here. Where's his city? 1, 2, 3. He couldn't work these tiles from that city anyway, even if he wanted to, so he'd have had to have placed another city further north. Now, even though your citizens can only work a tile within 3 hexes of the city, you can still actually claim a luxury resource by upgrading it with a worker, even if it's more than 3 hexes away. As long as it's within your territory and you've got the upgrade on it, you will actually get the luxury resource. Now, Hamburg's not actually growing, which is a problem. And that is because, for some reason, it is decided it is going to focus on production and not focus on growth. So we could go here and focus on growth. It still gives us 1 production. Still going to be 22 turns until we grow, but it's only going to be 1 extra turn until we get the granary. So I'm quite happy with that. I'll add 1 turn onto the granary just to get a bit of a kickstart on the growth of the city. So I'm going to end this video shortly because it's been around about half an hour. Probably a little bit longer. We can now go for the landed elite. Now that is only in the capital, sadly. One thing we do want to avoid though is the capital growing too quickly, because growth does cause unhappiness. As you can see, we've got 5 unhappiness generated by the population, and we've got 6 unhappiness generated from the number of cities, and we only have 2 cities. So that is going to make life a little bit difficult. Moving up in the scoreboard again, in 3rd place now, and actually in 2nd place now. People that like to smile the most. So I actually have the least happiness, or the most unhappiness, whichever way you want to put it. There is another player there, well, another AI there with the same sort of level. And we now have trapping. So what should we go for next? Probably go for writing. I'd like to get a library up and running. Now, I'm probably not going to be able to get the Great Library. And even though I'm not going for a scientific victory, having wonders like the Great Library is still very beneficial, because science helps you in whatever type of game you're playing, because it allows you to beat the other players to specific wonders. And also, if it does end up in all-out war, it allows you to have more advanced units, which are also fantastic. So, can't really do an awful lot else with my scout. I'm going to move him over here and attempt to pass through and have a look over in the top left and just see what is in that corner. And once we've had a little bit of exploration up there, we'll probably call it a day. Don't really want to upset them by idling in their territory, so I'm going to move back out. We can already see that is about as far as we can go. Our scout is now pretty much redundant until we get embarkation, and I can move them across the water. So I'm going to bring them back home. Not going to get rid of them. I will just sort of keep them in reserve, because we will go for optics. Let's just get them back into friendly-ish territory. Don't think I'm necessarily going to need to keep these warriors here now. There is a possibility that barbarians could spawn in the jungle here, but they're probably just as much of a threat to the Iroquois as they are to me. So I'm going to start moving these guys back. Maybe I will get them through Singapore and go down and have a word with those barbarians. It's probably worth doing that. And I would like you guys to come and sit over there, and then you're just kind of out of the way of everybody. Iroquois still moving their soldiers around. If they're not careful in a minute, they're going to get blocked, because if this hex expands here, they're going to be locked off in this little pocket and unable to get through my borders. So we're going to have to see what happens there. These guys are now going to just go on to alert. So he's still exploring around. Not an awful lot going on, unfortunately. It's been a little bit uneventful for the time being. But we do have our second city. We're one turn away from the Temple of Artemis. So let's hope we get that. Let's keep moving these guys across. We are going to go and deal with those barbarians. I've actually decided now. So that should be it. We should have the temple. Yes, we do. So we now have 10% growth in all cities and 15% production when building ranged units. And we've also discovered writing, which now means we can have a library. We are going to go for... Do we need plantations? We need calendar to get the dyes. So yeah, we're going to go for calendar. And production, it's time to get a worker. We've put it off for long enough. I could try and rush the Great Library, but the chances are somebody has already started on that, and I'm unlikely to beat them to it, so I'm not going to bother too much about that. Move these warriors a little bit closer and end the turn. Now we can have mutual accept embassies, which is fine. That makes things slightly less messy. Now 5 turns away from a granary in Hamburg. Now obviously it was a few turns, but look, we've gone from 22 turns for a population increase down to 8 turns in the space of about 5 or 6 turns. So having that temple is absolutely brilliant. You guys are going to have to cut through Singapore. Singapore is going to be unhappy about this, and I really do apologise, but it's the only way I've got of getting down there. This could also cause a problem if I do happen to get attacked. There's the Iroquois, and we have met the Japanese. Can we go for a mutual embassy straight away? Yes, we can. So we can instantly see where Japan are. They are over here. Not too far away from us either. So we have met the Japanese. And already they have a settler trying to get over onto this side of the island. So that's going to be interesting. Okay, we are going to go for a next turn. Still trespassing in Singapore. That barbarian camp must still be down there. There's every possibility that they're going to get their settlers captured, which would be fantastic. Oh, they're not Japanese settlers. They're Japanese warriors. I thought they were settlers. My bad, not paying attention to the information given to me on the screen. Are they really going to try and pop there? Who knows? Let's keep moving. Let's go down and see if these barbarians are here. I was really hoping that they would actually get their settler captured, because what I could do is then kill the barbarians, take the settlers back. If you capture somebody else's settlers, they don't become your own settlers, but they would become workers. Someone's already had some settlers captured, so that's fantastic. Hamburg has finished its production of a granary. So what we're going to go for now is a shrine. Let's get a little bit more faith going, because I do tend to neglect the religion quite a lot. And I shouldn't do, because it does give you some very useful bonuses. It can become a bit of a pain sometimes. I'm going to move these guys down here onto the hill. What I'd like to do is defeat the barbarians in the camp. I was kind of hoping these guys move north and go off and attack the... attack their settler. I'm going to try for the Great Library. Probably won't get it, but I'm going to try for it. We now have our worker as well. We still have unhappiness, so the first thing that I want to try and do is I'm going to build a mine on the salt. That will give us an additional 1 food, an additional, well, when worked by the city, 1 food and 1 gold, which it's already getting. But it will also give us an extra 4 happiness from the improvement on the salt, so it's well worth getting that going. You watch now, it'll tell me on the next turn that somebody has built the Great Library, usually what happens. So Hamburg and Berlin have both grown on the same turn. And we are now... Oh, they're choosing to work a production heavy tile, which is probably not a bad thing. They're working a couple of production tiles. We do want to avoid growth at the moment because we are unhappy. So I'm just going to put it onto all-out production focus. We don't want to concentrate on growth, we want to concentrate on production. Growing more is just going to make us more unhappy. Choose research. Well, we do have some jungles around, so let's go for bronze working, so we're going to be able to remove those jungles. I think they're going to still carry on heading north. I don't know what to do for the best here. I think what I'm going to do is try and attack them. Hopefully these guys won't try and attack me from behind. They could do. It would be very naughty if they did, but it would not surprise me. Going to get the workers to start constructing the mine and go on to the next turn. Yep, Great Library has been built in a land far away. What did I tell you? It was bound to happen. Okay, these warriors are now not in a good position at all. They're actually being beaten left, right and centre. So we're just going to build the standard library. What do I do with these guys? I can't really do anything with them at all, to be honest. So I'm going to put them on fortify until healed. Maybe they will survive a turn or two. Great Lighthouse has also been built in a land far away. Yep, barbarians are attacking. Of course, I do get a slight defensive bonus, but I don't think I am going to survive this one. Which is a shame, because they do get a unit promotion, and they have unfortunately died. Which is a real pain, because I would have loved to have gone and captured that settler. I'd have had myself a free worker. I think what I'm actually going to do is purchase myself a free warrior. Also, as well, of course, we have unhappiness, which means that cities will grow at 1/4 normal speed while the empire is unhappy. Golden production output is reduced by 2% for each point of unhappiness, so we've got a 6% reduction. And the same penalty applies to units in combat. So we were actually getting a 6% reduction to our combat efficiency because we actually have 3 points of unhappiness. And I didn't take that into consideration when I went down there to try and pick on the barbarians. I have now produced some extra warriors, so we're going to take the long march over there again and deal with them. So we'll just finish off this last turn, and that's definitely where I'm going to end the video for now. We have another policy, which is great. 1 gold and -1 unhappiness for every 2 citizens in the capital. Well, my capital, if I can... What is it? The map lets me scroll up, but not down. We have 5 citizens in the capital. And we're on -1 gold as well, which isn't great. So that would give us... down to -1 unhappiness it should be. Oh no, it's put us on 0. So that's good. And we're now on +1 gold. So happy with that. Let's keep these warriors moving. We've got to trek through Singapore again. Obviously now it's impossible to work Kilimanjaro because it is within Ur's borders. Of course we could always capture Ur, but I generally don't pick on the city-states. I find that they're more useful as independent allies than they are as captured city-states. I know I said I was going to end that turn, and then I've clicked next turn about 3 more times since, but nothing's really happened. So we're going to move through Singapore as quick as we can. We're going to have a problem now, though, because they have workers in the way, which is not good at all. Because I can only move 2 hexes, which is 1, 2, and that means I would be in their hex, which is not good. So I'm going to have to move out on the next turn. Right. Quick look at the tech tree and where we're going to go for next. I definitely think we should... we don't have any stone or marble near the city, so the mausoleum of Halicarnassus isn't necessarily that good for us. And the wheel would give us water mills, which would help production. Most of our cities are on rivers, so let's go for the water mill. Unit needs orders. We've finished the salt. That's now put us into 4 happiness. I'm going to go over here and get the second salt, which will mean I have 1 to trade away. I'm going to hit next turn anyway, because that will then give us the library. Trespassing in Singapore, which I already knew. Hamburg has grown. Hamburg is going to build... What are you going to build, Hamburg? What are you going to build? You could try and build Stonehenge. Don't necessarily know if that would be any use. So let's build a library for now. And we can also build in Berlin. Let's get Berlin to try and build Stonehenge. I mean, it will give us... It will give us faith if we can get it up. I'm just going to move these warriors out until they've moved that worker and I can get through there. And that's pretty much all I can do on that turn. So I'm going to call it there. Not the most exciting first video, I have to admit, but we do have our first 2 cities set up. We have a relatively strong culture output for our position in the game. Second on the scoreboard, which is, you know, pretty good. I don't know who is in first place there, but they're really running away with things. Japan down at the bottom. And we've still got a little bit of land to colonise. It certainly looks like we are on an archipelago map because there seems to be lots of these little island chains. So There might be a bit of naval warfare in this one. I know in my last game it was pretty much peaceful. We did go to war with the Zulus for a turn or two, and I think we only lost one unit. We didn't really get involved in any kind of conflict. I usually try and play these games passively, peaceful, without actually going to war with people. But sometimes you need to, because you need certain resources or you need certain land, and sometimes people attack you and you need to defend yourself. So maybe in this Let's Play, this may be the one where I get to show you guys how the combat system works and what happens when you take over somebody else's city. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time. So until then, goodbye for now.